Hi, and welcome to Rebekah. Yes, you saw that right. There is a buff male nanny on my TBR. The romance readers probably know what that means. I am picking up RAFE, A Buff Male Nanny by Rebekah Weatherspoon. So this book has been shoved at me repeatedly in my recommendations all over the place. I think that I probably am going to like it a ton. So I actually paid full price on ebook, even though I usually pick these things up from my library because romance reads are typically not things I reread a whole lot. But I've heard the consent is great. I've heard that it has very mature relationships and great communication. So this story follows a single mom who needs a nanny, and she hires this buff male nanny named Rafe. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a light, fluffy palette cleanser to get into this month. So that's number one on my May TBR. Next up, you may have seen my R Fantasy Bingo TBR. So I have Lirael by Garth Nix, and I think this is going to be a hybrid read. It's a very long book. This is a high fantasy story. I loved the previous one, Sabriel, which follows a necromancer who uses bells for the necromantic magic. It's a really cool system. But this one has been repeatedly on TBRs for me, on imminent TBRs, before I was on Booktube, and I just never get to it, and I really want to. So this one is going on there this month, and it's going to fit some bingo challenges, including the Cat Squasher. Next up, my Booktube spin pick. So Rick McDonnell does the Booktube spin challenge, which I made a video for. I will link down below, where we picked 20 books and he did a random number roll, and we got number 1, which happens to be the only book I have already read. So this book is all about a Mennonite sect that is very insular, and the women of the sect have been victims of being drugged and raped. The men that perpetrated this are in jail, but the other men of the town have left to go bail them out and bring them home. And the women are gathering in the barn to decide what to do about the situation. So this is that conversation between the women, back and forth. And it's kind of written like a script almost, so it flies by. It's a very fast read and very harrowing to read. I loved it the first time. I do really want to reread this. And then I have a couple things that I am picking up on ebook that I'm really excited for. So first one, I have When You Trap a Tiger by Keller. And I guess backstory on this, I read When the Tiger Comes Down the Mountain by Nevo when it came out earlier this year, and absolutely loved it, and was looking into the Korean tiger mythos that was based on, and found this story, which is the current Newbery Medal Award winner for this year, which is a children's literature award. And it follows a little girl who, her family is going to live with her grandmother, who is a Korean woman, and the grandmother is telling folktales to the granddaughter. So I think it's going to be a good primer for me, maybe. Obviously it's geared toward children, but I think it may give me some more background on not just the tiger mythos specifically, but maybe some other, sorry, the dog, but maybe some other folklore in the Korean tradition that I'm not familiar with. So I think it'll be a jumping off point that I can look into more on my own separately. So I'm excited for that one. Next up, I have Can't Take That Away by Salvatore. And this one I learned about because the author did an event with a local bookstore, and it wasn't really on my radar, but this is a YA contemporary following a genderqueer teen, and that is Own Voices. The author as well is genderqueer. And it follows this teen who has always dreamed of going to Broadway, and then kind of gains a friendship that encourages them to go for trying out for a musical. But when they do, they become subject to some bullying for their identity. So it sounds really interesting. If I'm understanding right, the way that it is written is in chapters that alternate pronoun use, which I think could be really interesting if I'm taking that the right way. So I'm looking forward to trying that out. Then I have a nonfiction book, Dress Codes, How the Laws of Fashion Made History by Richard Thompson Ford. And this one sounds super interesting to me. I really like fashion. I'm intrigued by not just modern style, but the way things are almost anthropologically explained in this book. Sounds like it's my sort of thing. So in this book, the author talks about how access to materials may have played into style and what was in fashion at the time, as well as it sounds like things like oppression of races and genders playing into what was in fashion at certain times in history. So that sounds super intriguing to me. It just came out. It's a new release, I think, as of February. So there was a pretty long hold list, and I think it's going to come in about 2 weeks. So hopefully that will come in for the second half of the month. So I think that's it for library holds and ebooks. And then what I have already ongoing right now to finish out at the start of the month, you've already seen it a whole bunch, Aeronauts Windlass. Still working on it. I've got about 20% left. I'm on chapter 42, if you can believe it. So I'm still working on that, still liking it, it's still entertaining. So I will try to get that done in the next week. I've got still on my Kindle, I'm working on Sorrowland. I'm going to finish that probably tomorrow. So it will technically carry over and be my first read of the month. So Sorrowland to finish up, and then I actually am beta reading a book. It's a sequel, so it's not a new series that's coming out. I've beta read previously for this author, so I'm going to be probably chipping away at that for the first 2 weeks and won't be able to really talk about it because it's a beta read. That means it has been not edited at all or anything. I'm just reading it for kind of plot coherency. So that will take up a bit of time in the first couple weeks of the month, and I'm pretty committed to getting that done and back my feedback to the author by mid-May. So I think that's what I have up. That obviously will not be all of my reading. I know there wasn't very much SFF in there in my TBR, but I assure you the majority of my reading this month will probably be some mood reading from my bingo TBR. So there will be lots of SFF to come. So that's it for me. I'm really looking forward to my reading in May. What are you excited to read in May? Or do you have any exciting books coming out in May? I haven't got any pre-orders lined up, but I do know there is an Alyssa Cole book coming out at the end of the month. So that's one I'm excited for. I may get to it when it comes out, or it may take me a couple weeks. I don't know. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll like and subscribe.